This one play from Shedeur Sanders in training camp shows you three things. Number one, it shows you his command at the line of scrimmage. Watch how he pulls the tight end back into the core of the protection to get to a max protection look, knowing that he identifies the defense being in cover zero. Cover zero means that they're bringing the house. They're playing man coverage on the outside, and they're blitzing everybody to try to make the quarterback get the ball out of his hands as fast as possible. Well, by going max protect, Shedeur allows himself to stay calm in the pocket, be able to set his feet on the back foot, and deliver an absolute dime for a touchdown to Gabe Larvidan. All right. Now, number two, look at the reaction of his teammates on the sideline. This isn't some, oh, we're going through training camp, let's just celebrate with everybody type of celebration. This is genuine excitement because they're seeing this young quarterback develop right in front of their eyes. And then number three, it shows you, based off the body of work through the first 5 practices of training camp, that Shedeur Sanders should be the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. Period. End of story. Don't make it harder than it needs to be. He's playing better than anyone else at the position. The locker room believes in him. The results are there on the field. Cleveland Browns, stop prolonging the inevitable. Make Shedeur Sanders your starting quarterback because he's earned it.
Something is starting to happen in Cleveland that the Browns probably hoped they would have figured out by now. This quarterback competition was supposed to give Todd Monken answers. Instead, every new practice seems to create another question, and Shedeur Sanders is becoming the reason this thing refuses to get simple. Because here we are, deep into training camp. Deshaun Watson has the experience. He has taken plenty of work with the first-team offense, and yet nobody can look at this battle and say Shedeur has been pushed out of the picture. Quite the opposite. The longer this goes, the more dangerous Shedeur becomes. And that might be the biggest story coming out of this stretch of Browns camp. It is not one touchdown. It is not one deep ball. It is not even about winning one practice. It is the fact that Cleveland keeps giving Shedeur opportunities to show whether he belongs in this fight, and he keeps finding ways to stay right in the middle of it. That changes everything, because eventually the Browns cannot keep evaluating quarterbacks forever. At some point, Todd Monken has to start building an offense around somebody. Day 9 gave us another reminder of why this decision is becoming so uncomfortable. Weather forced Cleveland indoors, the pads came off, and suddenly this became a different type of practice. Deshaun Watson had some really impressive throws, give him credit. There were moments where the veteran arm showed up, including some aggressive shots down the field. But even after a day where Watson had a chance to create some breathing room, the conversation did not end with everybody saying, that is clearly the guy.
We're going to have to, I know, because he made some good throws. He probably made throw of the day. In fact, it was messed up. Deshaun got to end his 2-minute drill with a touchdown. Shedeur was driving his team down, and I'll show you. He ended his. The guy he threw it to fumbled, right? So we'll get there. But we have to talk about this interception. This one was rough, right? I feel like there's a lot of interceptions where you can say, hey, there's tips, there's drills, maybe get out the way. This one, I think, speaks to the inconsistency of Deshaun. Completely overthrows Isaiah Bond, and Denzel Ward is back there, and he could just, I mean, he catching a punt, dog. He's catching an arm punt back there, right? So, the inconsistency, while, he's a vet and he can do some high-level things, there are some things to be, to be left behind. But again, hey, how does Deshaun respond? This is the end of the 2-minute drill. This is end of game scenario. They're on the 30-yard line. And look, man, I ain't going to lie to you, man. Steps in the pocket, steps out the pocket. I think that's a sack. It doesn't matter. Rolling to his left, rips one, and shout out to Isaiah Bond. Like, okay, I'm sorry, but quarterbacks aside, I don't know how y'all don't see these plays being made by Isaiah Bond, by Denzel Boston, by KC, by, what's it called?
Think about that for a second. If you are the experienced quarterback in this competition, that is what you need to do. You need to create separation. You need to make the coaches feel like there is no reason to keep looking over your shoulder. You need to make Shedeur Sanders feel like he is chasing you. Instead, Shedeur is still right there. That is why the Browns now have a much bigger problem than deciding who threw the prettiest football on one afternoon. Shedeur has turned this into a battle over opportunity. Every time Cleveland gives him another serious rep, he gets another chance to make the coaches wonder what would happen if they simply gave him more. And that is exactly where this gets interesting. Because Shedeur does not need to look perfect. Nobody in this quarterback room has looked perfect. He does not need to complete every pass, and he certainly does not need to win every practice by a mile. What he needs to do is keep showing Cleveland that the jump from Shedeur Sanders to the first-team offense is not nearly as big as people expected it to be. That is how a quarterback competition gets flipped. It starts with a few reps. Then the younger quarterback gets another opportunity, then another. Pretty soon the coaching staff is not asking, can he handle this? They are asking, how much more can we give him? And those are two completely different questions. That is why the next stage of this battle matters so much. The early part of camp gave Monken time to install the offense, rotate quarterbacks, and see how everybody absorbed the system. But that excuse has an expiration date. The Browns are getting closer to preseason football. The offense needs rhythm, receivers need timing with their quarterback. The offensive line needs to hear the same voice controlling the huddle. Eventually, somebody has to receive the majority of the meaningful work. And if Shedeur keeps making that decision difficult, Cleveland may have to move faster than it wanted to. That does not automatically mean Watson is finished. That would be taking this too far. Watson can still make high-level throws, and Day 9 showed that clearly. But there is a major difference between proving you can make NFL throws and proving this competition should already be over. Watson has not done the second part, and every day he fails to do it is another day Shedeur gets stronger in this race. That is what makes this entire situation so fascinating. Shedeur does not have to knock the door down with one magical practice. He can do something much more frustrating for the veteran standing across from him. He can simply refuse to go away, keep earning reps, keep making plays, keep looking comfortable, keep forcing Todd Monken to watch. Because once a coaching staff starts wondering whether the younger quarterback deserves more, the entire balance of the competition begins to change. And Shedeur Sanders may already be getting dangerously close to that point. Now here is where Shedeur Sanders can make this quarterback battle even more uncomfortable for Cleveland. The first-team reps are starting to matter more and more because at this stage of camp, they are no longer just random practice snaps. They are auditions. Every time Shedeur steps into the huddle with better protection, better weapons, and a faster group around him, the Browns get another look at the question they eventually have to answer. Does he actually belong there? And so far, Shedeur has done enough to keep that question alive. That matters because there is a huge difference between looking good against backups and looking comfortable when the speed picks up.
Never be mad when Shedeur makes a mistake, and this was a mistake, a small one, an overthrow, looking for his tight end. We're going to watch it through here. But more importantly, it's the way he responds. So overthrows a little bit. I see the idea. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren runs under it. Really good range from him. Really great speed from him. The Toledo guy's going to make some great work there. Look, get him out the way now too. Get him out the way now too, because right after that, right, and you know the themes are following. Yesterday he threw an interception. It was a batted ball. Is what it is. Does he get scared? Does he get small? How does he respond to something like that? And this is how he does it right here. Stands in the pocket, delivers a dot to his guy Gage, and he holds on to it. So that's right after the interception. And I would have to say I haven't seen any what do you call procedural things, right? So I'll keep checking.
The first team offense moves differently. The timing is tighter. The expectations are higher. The quarterback has less room to hesitate, and every mistake gets magnified. That is exactly why these reps are so valuable. Cleveland is not just watching whether Shedeur can complete a pass. They are watching whether the entire offense still looks functional with him running it. And the more normal it looks, the bigger the problem becomes for everybody else in that quarterback room. That might be the most dangerous part of Shedeur's rise right now. He does not need to walk into a first-team period and turn into Superman. In fact, that is not even what the Browns should want. They need to see whether he can operate the offense without looking overwhelmed. Can he get the call in? Can he line everybody up? Can he handle the pace? Can he get the football out on time? Can he stay calm when the defense changes the picture after the snap? Those are the reps that start changing a depth chart. Because once a young quarterback stops looking like a guest with the starters, coaches begin to look at him differently. At first, the conversation might be, let's give Shedeur a few reps and see what happens. Then it becomes, he handled those pretty well. Then suddenly it turns into, why are we not giving him more? That is how these competitions change without anybody making some huge announcement. And this is where Cleveland has to be careful. Every additional first-team rep Shedeur gets is valuable, but it also creates pressure on the coaching staff. If he looks comfortable, fans are going to want more. If he moves the offense, teammates are going to notice. If he starts building chemistry with the starting receivers, the decision gets even harder. That is not hype. That is simply what happens in training camp. Players know who looks comfortable. Players know who commands the huddle. Players know who puts the football where it needs to be. And they definitely know when a quarterback starts earning more trust. That trust might be the biggest thing Shedeur can build right now. Because arm strength alone is not going to decide this competition. Cleveland already has quarterbacks who can throw the football. This battle is going to come down to who can make the offense feel stable, who can keep the unit on schedule, Who can avoid turning one bad rep into 3 bad reps? Who can give Todd Monken confidence that the offense will still function when the defense starts showing different looks? That is why first-team work is such a big deal for Shedeur Sanders. The more reps he gets, the more evidence Cleveland collects. And at some point, that evidence becomes impossible to ignore. It also puts Deshaun Watson in a difficult position. Watson has the experience advantage. He has seen NFL defenses. He understands the speed. He has been in complicated offensive systems before. Those things matter. But experience is supposed to create distance. It is supposed to make the veteran look more comfortable, more prepared, and more in control. If Shedeur starts looking just as comfortable with the starters, then suddenly that experience advantage does not feel quite as powerful. That is where the pressure starts building.
I say Casey, I say Denzel. I say, Denzel Ward, Grant Delpit, Emmanuel McNeil Warren. I think everybody, and that's not even talking about Ronnie Hickman and the other really good contributors on this defensive play, just on the defense, right? I think we're spending so much time on the quarterback, and this is like the post thing, they enjoying it. I think we're spending so much time on the quarterback competition. Maybe it's my fault too. I'm spending too much time on the quarterback. Yeah, I'm gonna put it on me that we're not even praising the fact that there's just great football players out here, right? We're overanalyzing, and instead we can be celebrating some.
Because Shedeur does not have to prove he knows more football than Watson. He does not have to prove he has seen more defenses. He only has to prove that Cleveland can trust him enough to function with the first unit. That is a much more realistic battle. And if he keeps passing that test, the Browns will eventually have to decide whether they are evaluating Shedeur Sanders or whether they are actually preparing him. Those are not the same thing. Evaluation means you are collecting information. Preparation means you are getting somebody ready to play. And the line between those two things can disappear very quickly in training camp. That is why the next stretch could tell us so much. If Shedeur continues getting meaningful work with the first-team offense, watch how Cleveland handles it. Watch whether those reps increase. Watch whether he gets more situational football. Watch whether he gets more chances in 2-minute work, red zone periods, and other situations where quarterbacks have to control more than just the throw. Those decisions can tell you more than any press conference ever will. Todd Monken does not have to stand in front of a microphone and say Shedeur is moving up. But there is another side to this quarterback battle that might be even more important than Shedeur Sanders getting first-team reps, because Deshaun Watson's biggest problem right now may not be that he looks bad. It may be that he still has not created enough distance. And for a veteran quarterback with this much experience, that is a much bigger issue than people want to admit. Watson is still capable of making impressive throws. Nobody needs to pretend otherwise. He can hit a deep ball, he can make a difficult throw outside the pocket. And there are moments where you can clearly see the veteran experience. That is exactly why this competition is so interesting. Watson does not look like a quarterback who suddenly forgot how to play. He looks like a quarterback who can still flash, but those flashes have not been enough to completely shut the door on Shedeur Sanders. And that is the part Cleveland has to notice. Because if Watson were clearly ahead, this conversation would already be getting boring. The Browns would be giving him the majority of the important reps, the offense would be settling around him, and Shedeur would be getting talked about more as a future option. But that is not what this feels like right now. Instead, every practice still feels like another test. Every good Watson throw gets followed by another question. Every solid Shedeur stretch keeps the pressure alive. And the longer that happens, the less this feels like a veteran protecting his job, and the more it feels like a younger quarterback slowly taking away the comfort that veteran was supposed to have. That does not mean Shedeur has officially won anything. Training camp can change quickly. One great practice can move the conversation, and one rough practice can slow everything down. But when you look at the bigger picture, Watson should not just be trying to win individual days.
Dylan Gabriel was pushing the ball down the field. Oh, wait, they called PI on this. Hold on. Y'all better give my guy Shedeur his 15 yards. He threw into a pass interference, but this is Malachi Cole. This is a deep ball. He puts us at a pretty good spot. He gives him a chance away from the defenders. That's some really good football play from a very deep ball. As you see, Malachi Corley is able to turn and protect himself, protect the ball from the defender. You got to come up. Hey, we've seen Jerry Jeudy hand that to a defender. But really good play by the defender to kind of keep fighting through there. Almost gets the extra interception. I would love to see him come down with that. But hey, man, that's 15 yards, dog. Wait, in the NFL, isn't it a spot foul? I watch too much college football and NFL. I get confused which one's which. But that might be we in the red zone for real. But again, Deshaun Watson also doing some good things, man. Deshaun Watson might have had his best throws of a best and maybe his worst throw, because
He should be trying to make this competition feel unnecessary. That is the standard. If you are the experienced quarterback, you are not supposed to leave the coaches wondering every night. You are supposed to make the decision easy. And that is why even Watson's good practices can still leave Cleveland with questions. A veteran making a few high-level throws is expected. That is part of the reason he is in this battle in the first place. But if those throws are mixed with mistakes, missed opportunities, or moments where the offense loses rhythm, then the door stays open. And Shedeur Sanders has been living in that open door. That is where this battle gets dangerous for Watson. Because Shedeur does not need to match Watson's experience. He does not need to know every trick that comes with years in the NFL. He only needs to keep proving that the gap between them is smaller than it should be. If Watson looks great and Shedeur looks completely overwhelmed, easy decision. If Watson looks steady and Shedeur is clearly not ready, easy decision. But if Watson has impressive moments and Shedeur keeps hanging around right next to him, now Todd Monken has a real problem. Because at that point, what exactly are you protecting? Experience, the veteran label, the idea of what Watson can still be? Those things matter, but eventually the Browns have to judge what is happening in front of them. And what is happening in front of them is a competition that refuses to separate. That might be Shedeur Sanders' biggest victory so far. Not one bomb down the sideline. Not one touchdown. Not one viral practice clip. The victory is that Cleveland still has to keep looking at him. Watson has had chances to grab control of this thing. He has had first-team work. He has had days where the offense gives him opportunities to make a statement. And yet Shedeur is still close enough that the next practice matters. That should tell you something. Because the deeper Cleveland gets into camp, the more valuable separation becomes. The coaching staff cannot stay in evaluation mode forever. At some point, they need chemistry. They need timing. They need one quarterback getting comfortable with the same receivers, the same offensive line, and the same game situations. So every day, Watson fails to create real distance, makes Shedeur more dangerous. And there is another part of this that matters. Shedeur does not have the same pressure on him. Watson is expected to look like the experienced quarterback. Shedeur is still being judged on whether he can prove he belongs in the conversation. Those are completely different standards. If Watson has a decent practice, people can still ask why he did not dominate. If Shedeur has a decent practice, people can say he held his own. That is the advantage Shedeur has created for himself by staying competitive. He does not need the battle to be perfect. He needs it to stay close. Because the closer it stays, the more Cleveland eventually has to ask the question Watson probably does not want them asking. If these quarterbacks are this close right now, which one gives us more reason to believe he can get better as the season goes on? That is where this stops being just another training camp competition. That becomes a decision about direction. And now this quarterback battle is reaching the part where Todd Monken can no longer hide behind the word evaluation forever. Early in camp, that word makes perfect sense. You install the offense, you rotate quarterbacks, you test different combinations, you see who handles pressure, who understands the system, and who can actually command the huddle. But once those early installs are done, the meaning of every rep starts to change. Because now the Browns are not just teaching anymore. They are choosing. Maybe not officially, maybe not publicly. But every time Monken gives one quarterback the first-team offense, every time he gives somebody a 2-minute drill, every time he lets one guy handle a red zone period, that is a decision. And those decisions are starting to matter more than anything he can say at the podium. That is why this next stretch is so important for Shedeur Sanders. The Browns do not need to name a starter right now. They still have time. But they also cannot stay in this wide-open competition forever. At some point, the offense needs structure. The receivers need timing with one quarterback. The offensive line needs to get used to one cadence. The entire unit needs to know who is controlling the huddle when the games start becoming real. And that is where Monken's job gets harder, because Shedeur has made it difficult to simply move on. If Shedeur had looked lost, this would be easy. You keep developing him. You give the veteran the job. You tell everyone the rookie or younger quarterback needs more time. But when Shedeur keeps showing that he can handle more, the conversation changes. Now every extra rep becomes important. Every first-team period becomes important. Every situational drill becomes important. And suddenly the coaching staff has to start asking a much more serious question. Are we still evaluating Shedeur Sanders, or are we beginning to prepare him for something bigger? That is the line Cleveland is getting closer to. And there is a huge difference between those two things. Evaluation means you are trying to find out what a player can do. Preparation means you already believe he might need to do it. That is why people should pay very close attention to how Monken handles the reps from this point forward. Forget the speeches. Forget the careful answers. Coaches rarely tell you everything in August, but the practice plan usually tells the truth. Who gets the first snap? Who gets the most important drive? Who gets the offense backed up near its own goal line? Who gets the 2-minute situation with the clock moving? Who gets another chance after making a mistake? Those decisions tell you who the coaches trust, and trust is starting to become the real currency in this quarterback battle. That is why Shedeur does not have to chase some ridiculous stat line every single day. He does not need 5 touchdowns in practice. He does not need every reporter walking out of camp calling him the clear winner. He needs Monken to keep giving him meaningful football. Because the more meaningful football Shedeur gets, the closer he gets to the real decision. And there is another part of this that could make Cleveland uncomfortable. The longer the competition stays close, the more difficult it becomes to justify giving one quarterback all the important reps simply because he has more NFL experience. Experience matters, but production matters too. Command matters, consistency matters, decision-making matters, and most importantly, trust matters. If Monken looks at Shedeur and believes the offense can function with him, then the old arguments start losing power very quickly. That is when a quarterback competition can turn fast. One week you are hearing that Shedeur is developing. The next week he is getting more work with the starters. Then suddenly he is taking the most important situational reps, and by the time everybody realizes what happened, the depth chart has already started changing. That is why this battle cannot stay stuck in neutral much longer. The Browns are moving toward preseason football. Soon the coaches are going to need real answers. Soon the offense has to stop being a laboratory and start becoming a football team. And when that happens, Todd Monken is going to have to show everybody which quarterback he actually trusts the most. That is where Shedeur Sanders has a chance to completely change the direction of this camp. But underneath all of this, there is one thing that could end up deciding the Browns' quarterback battle more than touchdowns, completion percentage, or one flashy deep ball: trust. Because once training camp reaches this stage, coaches are not just asking who can throw it. They are asking who they trust when the play does not go exactly the way it was drawn up. That is where Shedeur Sanders has a real chance to separate himself. Every quarterback looks good when the pocket is clean. The first read is open and the throw is easy. The real test starts when the defense changes the picture, when the protection gets stressed, when the timing is off, or when the quarterback has to make a decision in a split second. That is NFL football, and that is why this competition cannot be judged by one practice tracker. The Browns have to figure out who can keep the offense under control when things get messy, who gets everybody lined up correctly, who knows where the pressure is coming from, who can change the play if the defense gives him something different, who can take a bad rep and make sure it does not turn into an ugly stretch. Those are the things that build trust. And if Shedeur keeps showing Cleveland that he can handle those situations, that might matter more than any single throw Watson makes in camp, because this is where experience is supposed to show up. Deshaun Watson has been in the league. He has seen different defenses. He has played in big situations. He should have an advantage when it comes to operating before the snap, understanding pressure and knowing how to keep the offense organized. That is real. But here is the problem. If Shedeur starts closing that gap too, then what exactly is left separating them? That is when this battle becomes much more serious, because a coaching staff can live with a younger quarterback not knowing everything. What they cannot live with is a quarterback who keeps making the same mistake. If Shedeur misses something once and then fixes it, that is growth. If he sees pressure, adjusts and gets better the next time, that is growth. If he starts understanding what Monken wants before the ball is even snapped, that is where trust begins to grow fast. And once a coach trusts a quarterback, everything changes. Now he can call more aggressive plays. Now he can give the quarterback more responsibility. Now he can let him check out of bad looks. Now he can put the game in his hands. That is what Shedeur is really fighting for, not just the starting job, responsibility. Because the quarterback who gets the most responsibility usually becomes the quarterback the offense belongs to. And that is why these next practices could tell us more than the first week of camp did. The early practices are about installing. The later practices are about ownership. Who starts taking ownership of the offense? Who looks like he is commanding the operation instead of just running the plays? That is the next level Shedeur has to reach. And if he reaches it, Cleveland has a serious decision to make. This is also why one mistake should not completely change the way people look at a quarterback in camp. Every quarterback is going to have bad throws. Every quarterback is going to misread something. Every quarterback is going to have moments where the defense wins. The Browns are not searching for perfection. They are searching for somebody who does not lose control when perfection disappears. That is a completely different standard. Can Shedeur stay aggressive without becoming reckless? Can he protect the football without becoming afraid to make the big throw? Can he take what the defense gives him, then attack when the opportunity shows up? If he can find that balance, the argument for him becomes much stronger. Because now you are not just talking about a young quarterback with upside. You are talking about somebody who might actually be ready to manage an NFL offense. And there is one more thing that makes this interesting. The Browns defense is giving these quarterbacks real work. They are seeing tight coverage. They are seeing pressure. They are seeing defenders who can punish a late throw. That is exactly what you want during a quarterback competition. You do not learn much when everything is easy. You learn when the defense makes the quarterback uncomfortable. That is where decision-making shows up. That is where composure shows up. That is where trust gets earned. And if Shedeur keeps coming out of those difficult situations looking like he belongs, the Browns are going to have a hard time treating him like just another developmental option. Because at some point, development turns into readiness. At some point, potential turns into evidence. And at some point, Todd Monken has to decide which quarterback he trusts when the game gets tight, the defense gets aggressive, and the easy answers disappear. That might be the real battle happening in Cleveland right now. Not who can throw the prettiest football, not who has the biggest name, not who has been in the league the longest. So now Cleveland is getting closer to the moment where this quarterback battle has to become more than just another training camp storyline. Shedeur Sanders has done enough to stay right in the middle of the conversation, and that alone is creating pressure. The more reps he gets, the more trust he builds, and the harder it becomes for the Browns to simply treat him like a long-term project. Deshaun Watson still has experience. He can still make big-time throws. But if Shedeur keeps matching the moment, keeps handling the offense, and keeps making this competition feel close, then Todd Monken is eventually going to have to make a real decision. And that is what makes the next practices so important. This is not just about who wins one day. This is about who starts taking control of the offense, who earns the most trust, who gets the meaningful reps, and who starts looking like the quarterback Cleveland actually wants to move forward with. So let me know down below. After everything we have seen so far in Browns training camp, who do you think has the edge right now? Shedeur Sanders or Deshaun Watson? And if you believe Shedeur is getting closer to forcing Cleveland's hand, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stay locked in because this quarterback battle is only getting more serious.